Welcome everyone to the next version of Let's Get Solving with Google Cloud. My name is Nitin Khattar. I'm working as a customer engineer with Google Cloud Platform. I'm working as a data analytics specialist, helping multiple customers build their data strategy on how to build the modern data architectures in Google Cloud. So in today's session, we'll talk about how to build streaming pipelines using Dataflow. So we'll try and understand what it takes to build some sort of a streaming analytical solutions. We'll look at a very common problem statement that we see in our day-to-day lives, and then we'll look at how Dataflow differentiate itself from the likes in the market available, and we'll also look at a small demo of building Dataflow pipeline from scratch, where we'll move some of the real-time events, we'll build a pipeline, process it, and put it into a data warehouse. So let's get started. Okay, so for any enterprise class event streaming analytics solutions, what all we need? So first of all, that most important is a serverless architecture. Why a serverless architecture is more important? The reason being we don't want to spend too much time in looking at and provisioning the different infrastructure behind a streaming architecture, because as the data is growing, as the events are growing, this infrastructure will never be enough. So we always have to keep scaling it up, and that takes a lot of effort and time. So definitely an important area would be to look at a serverless offerings. Second, a robust ingestion service. By that, I mean that we should be able to scale and ingest data at a very high scale. And this is something that can grow as the data is growing. So we need some way where it can be fault tolerant, where I can do retries. If I want to persist my event streams, I should be able to do that. If I'm able to do any processing on the fly. So a robust service that can scale as well as we are able to do some complex things. The third aspect to it is the unified batch and stream processing, which talks about today, let's say I'm building a pipeline which is in a batch fashion and I'm doing some processes. Tomorrow, the same source can be converted into a real time, considering we are having real time events flowing in. My rest of the processing should remain the same. So, how I can build those pipelines, which could be batch for today, but they're ready for streaming tomorrow. So, we need some sort of a way where I don't have to duplicate my efforts and build something that can be used for both batch and streaming together. The fourth aspect comes with the comprehensive set of analytical tools. So I should be not be just building a pipeline. We'll be putting the data, reading it from somewhere, putting into another storage, using some analytics on the top of it. So there should be a complex integrations possible where I can read from some certain sources and take it to some particular storage systems and all. So integrations are most important. And lastly, the flexibility aspects. Am I able to monitor those pipelines? Am I able to write pipelines very quickly? Do we have some templatized way of writing those pipelines? So specifically all of these pillars, let's go forward and look at a very common problem statement, I would say. So I think most of the users have been using Twitter, and this is going at a very large scale. So let's say if you want to do a sentiment analysis on Twitter, there's a Twitter feed that one could comply to, or they can read. There's a streaming feed that is coming in, how I can calculate a sentiment on the top of it. So this is a common, I would say, one pipeline that I've built on GCP, that how you will approach this particular problem statement. So if you look at from the left-hand side, you will see there's a Twitter feed coming in. And this is, by the way, end-to-end serverless. So I have an App Engine app, which is going to read that particular streaming, coming from the Twitter side and push this into PubSub, which is our, again, a messaging queue, a serverless messaging queue, where you can push those tweets. Now, Dataflow comes in, acts as the streaming pipeline, which reads the data or the tweets which are coming in real time, call the NLP API to create, to identify the sentiment out, or create or calculate the sentiment score, and insert that tweet along with the sentiment into the data warehouse, which is BigQuery. And then on the top of the BigQuery, I can do a further analysis, whether in form of notebooks, whether in form of a Data Studio dashboard. So the key center thing that comes in this entire pipeline is the data flow, which is reading the real-time events, doing all the processing on the fly, calling the NLP API, and finally inserting the data into BigQuery. So now Let's look at some of the unique features of Dataflow when we call it as it is a unified stream and batch processing. So it is based on the open source framework called Apache Beam that Google open sourced quite some years back. And there are a lot of differentiators. And just to talk about few of them, as I mentioned, the complexity and reusability of the code that comes with Dataflow with a unified language that makes it very easy for us to have a complex, reduce the complexity and give it more flexibility for users to write the pipelines. And then the second part comes is the reliable and consistent processing. So we talked about how we can have an ingestion at scale, how we can have a robust service, how we can have exact once processing. So all that is possible data flow. There's a built-in support for fault tolerant execution. And then comes the integrations aspects, how I can measure things, how I can perform, look at the performance, the scaling, availability. So the simplified operations and management makes it very easy and flexible for users to monitor the pipeline end to end. And lastly is the integration. So there is already ready integrations available with PubSub, with other Google data products. And moreover, there is no lock-in. So the pipeline which is created in Apache Beam, today if you're running on Dataflow with all these advantages, you can easily move this out, run it on Spark and Flink and other streaming frameworks without any change. So that what makes Dataflow a serverless solution to addressing all your streaming needs. So without any much ado, let's move on to the demo. So we'll be using Qwiklabs for the demo today. I'll pause for some time and ask you to scan this QR code. With this, we are helping you out and giving a free subscription for 30 days of Qwiklabs. So this particular lab that we are going to show you today, you can open this lab using this QR code. So please scan it. And then we'll do that lab. So I'll encourage you to complete that lab, and then you will have a complete 30 days of free access to Qwiklabs, where all the resources that you can learn on streaming, on BigQuery, or any other Google products. Okay, so I hope you must have scanned this QR code. So let's move on and let's go to the Qwiklabs console. So I've opened this link already. As you can see, so we are going to look at how to start Dataflow, use a quick start using the templates. So I'll start the lab immediately. Will not spend too much time in each and every nitty-gritties of the lab. I'll just skip this part and let's start the lab. So this way you can launch the lab. I've signed in with my own, so you can basically sign up and basically start using it. So now if you see it, the lab is started, it is asking me to open the Google Cloud Console with these credentials. So just let me quickly do that and open into a incognito window. So let me just copy the link address, put it into incognito window, okay, and copy the username, password. You're ready. So we'll look at, meanwhile this gets provisioned, what we'll be doing today is looking at some of the events which are generated on a taxi fare. Let's say some taxis are going on in a particular city. There are events, real-time events being generated. They're being pushed to PubSub. And you want to process those events and put it into my data warehouse so that I can start doing analytics on the top of it. So how I can do this with Dataflow using the templates and quickly launch streaming pipelines without any hassles around the servers, the provisioning, any other aspects. So this is what the Google Console looks like. So let's go back and as I said, we'll be using the Cloud PubSub and the BigQuery template. We'll read the messages which is in JSON format from PubSub and push them into a BigQuery table. So let's move on. Let's first of all look at how we can insert data into BigQuery. So we can choose either console or the shell way. Let's, for the interest of time, using the console way. So we'll go into the BigQuery console. We'll create this dataset ID. We'll create a small table, and we'll see that whether we have completed this task. So from here, you can navigate to BigQuery or even search for it. Yeah. So just let's open the BigQuery console. And here within this, we can create a data set. and the dataset ID should be taxi rides. And that's it. So as you can see, let me just move this. The dataset is created now. Okay, so I think rest of the part is complete. Let's check our progress. Okay, so this is complete. Now let's create the table name and go back here. Look at this plus icon, create the table. And this is going to be a table which is empty for now. Okay, and we'll put the table name as real time. So we'll put this, and now let's add the schema out there. So within the schema, edit as text. That's the schema. If you look at the schema, we are going to have a ride ID, and there's a point which is the latitude and longitude. So we are getting some of the parameters that when a taxi ride is moving from one location to another. So we are having the attributes with respect to that journey. I think rest of the areas, let's leave that as it is and create the table. Okay, so as you can see, now my table is created. If I navigate within my taxi rides, this new table is created. It is having the schema that we have provided. Okay, so this is complete. Now let's create a storage bucket that we're going to use for our Dataflow pipeline. And the name of the bucket, we can take it as the project ID that we allocated. So you can see this is the project ID. You can copy that. Sorry. Okay, so this is okay. So we'll go back now and go into cloud storage. So we'll navigate to the storage from here. Yeah, here is the storage. And we'll create the bucket using the Google Cloud Console. Okay, here's the link to create the bucket. Yes. So we have already copied this, and let's continue. I think the rest of the things we can keep it as it is. Yes, multi-region, US multi-region, that's it. Let's create the bucket. So yes, as you see, if you go to the buckets, this particular bucket is created. So this is done. Let's check the progress. Yes. Now it's the time to run the pipeline. So we will be reading, as I said, from PubSub. So this particular environment that we have created is already having a PubSub. It is already having certain events coming in. So we'll create a pipeline that will read from PubSub, which is the messaging queue. We're going to run a Dataflow pipeline, and it's going to write into BigQuery. So let's navigate to the Dataflow menu from the navigation menu. So go into the hamburger menu and just go down on the big data, or we can even search also. It's fine. Let's go into the big data console, and here is the data flow. So let's click on that. Let me reset this. Yeah. Okay, so here is the link to create job from template. So now I can choose any particular job name, or let's look at what we've been asked to use. So we can enter any job name. So let's say test streaming job, and regional center point, that's remain the same. Now let's use the Dataflow template for PubSub to BigQuery. So you can just choose the template from the dropdown. As you can see, for a stream, there are multiple templates already present, and for streaming as well as for batch. And what we need to use is the PubSub topic to BigQuery. So this is how the template looks like. It would ask for some of the required parameters. Let's enter those parameters. So here is the value for the PubSub topic. This is already pre-created in the environment with the name taxi rides hyphen real time. And let's look at the output table that we have created. So first needs to be there the project ID, and then followed by taxi ride, which is the data set, and the table, which is real time. Okay, so and the temporary location will be the bucket name that we have created. So that's also with the project ID. Let's copy this first and then edit the bucket name. Again, refer to the project ID, which is created the bucket name with the same name. So this is done. That's all. And we just click on the run job. So what will happen is it's going to execute this particular template that you will see how it looks like. And in very few time, we'll be looking at, it is going to launch a DAG graph, read the events from PubSub, and start writing into our table. And we'll then verify that the records are being read. So as I said, so this complete DAG graph is loaded. The Dataflow pipeline is now running. So if you see, and just click on this particular step, you will see on the right hand side it will start reading, and then now you will start sometime you will start seeing this data flowing in. So right now it's provisioning. So this is completely serverless. We didn't started any server. It just started everything on its own. It started reading from the PubSub topic using the template that we have created. Once it starts, and then it's basically converted that into a particular row format that can be inserted into the BigQuery. And if there are any failed records, it is also going to write a failed record. So this is completely fault tolerant design in that particular manner. And this is also one of the tabs job metrics that you can look at for monitoring your Dataflow jobs. And within here, you would see a lot of metrics coming in as you start processing the data freshness, latency, and you see the auto scaling graph. It actually started a worker, and now that particular worker is running and it's going to execute. And if required, depending upon the scale and the load, it will auto scale further, and we can control some of these auto scaling configurations as well. So this gives the flexibility that whatever be the ingestion and whichever be the load, the data flow is accordingly going to add more machines, auto scale up, or if required, if there's lesser load, it's automatically going to downscale as well. So that's pretty much I had for today. And let's look at what else we have on this particular thing. So we have run the pipelines. Let's check our progress. So in very less time, if we go back and check into our particular table that we created, we'll start seeing there are records coming in. So let's go back into our BigQuery console. Let's search from here. So within our data set, within this particular table, you will start seeing the results coming in. So right now, it's still loading it up. Okay, so we need to change the project ID. I think we can just remove the project ID for now, because we're already in that particular project, and skip this one. So right now, this is not having any results because it's still loading the data, but you will see in some amount of time, the data would start flowing in. So that's how easy it is to run the data flow pipeline, and you can easily move data which is coming in real time. You'll start seeing this kind of a data coming into the different rides, which is going to be what is the ride ID, what is the point, what are the different latitude, longitude, and now you can do a lot of analysis on the top of it. You can run certain queries, you can run some aggregations on the top of it, build some dashboards at the same time. But this is all happening, the real-time data being read from PubSub, it's being processed through Dataflow, it's inserted to BigQuery, and again in a streaming fashion, and then you can start analyzing it. So if we go back to our problem statement on Twitter, that's how easy it would be to write a to divert a Twitter feed and put it into BigQuery. And in between, if you want, you can make changes to your data flow, write your own custom template as well, and you can integrate with any other API. Just like I was doing it for NLP API, you can call other APIs or your own custom REST APIs as well. So going back, I think thanks a lot, and that's how easy it is to. And Qwiklabs is definitely a very good way that you can start learning a lot of these things on Google Cloud. And I wish you all the success. Thank you so much. We'll have more coming soon, so stay tuned. Thank you.